Hi, Father Ian Van Heusen here. As we enter into this third Sunday of Advent, we want to consider, how is the Lord working in our lives? How has His mission been accomplished concretely this past year? See, the reality is we can get spinning our wheels about many things. Like we can see problems, we can see challenges, we can see difficulties. But are we moving in a positive direction? Are we learning to name grace and to connect with its working in our own hearts? See, we see in today's gospel, the disciples of John, and even the disciples of Jesus are struggling with this notion that John proclaimed that the Messiah would come. And then when Jesus comes and the Messiah comes, they're like, but what about all of those promises? Like, what about all of that glory? How do we not see this happening? And Jesus names for them the graces that have happened. The lame walk, the blind see. But they want something more, but they're not connecting with how the Holy Spirit is working in their lives. Now, we do know that at the second coming of Christ, which is what they're kind of thinking about, is the second coming of Christ, all of history will be brought under God's rule. We'll see God's glory in all of its fullness. But there's a mysterious way that when Christ accomplished His work of salvation, we participate in it in a mysterious way in the here and now. So it's this classic paradox, already not yet. Jesus proclaims the kingdom, He inaugurates the kingdom, but yet its completion, its fulfillment will take place at the second coming of Christ. But in the meantime, connect with that sense and how it's fulfilled in your heart, fulfilled in your life. Because if we learn to do that on a regular basis, if we learn to name grace, we're already starting to have that foretaste of heaven. And we're already starting to participate in the mission. So look back over your year. What are those moments of grace? Now, I also want to say this. Sometimes we think the heights of prayer are our imagination, or when we're thinking a lot, or when we have some really brilliant insight. But the heights of prayer are contemplation, that resting in the Lord. So sometimes people experience that resting, but they don't understand what a precious gift it is. I was working once in spiritual direction with a woman, and I was trying to help her to recognize, to seek contemplation, to seek that resting in the Lord. And when she finally understood the concept, she realized that she had experienced it before, but she didn't cherish it for the gift that it was. She preferred the working of her imagination. She preferred a lot of words, a lot of concepts. But when that rest was given, she didn't always cherish it. Then after I explained it to her, she cherished it much more on a regular basis. That ability to just sit and be with the Lord, to be with the one you love. So look back over those years. Have you experienced that rest? Have you been with the Lord? Have you spent time with Him? Also, what are those moments when the Holy Spirit is broken into your heart? What are those moments of grace? Name grace so as to overcome the work of the enemy. Amen.